everyone. My name is Marco Van Jura. I'm a member of Palestine Solidarity here in Austria. To my right is Irina Vara. She will introduce herself in a moment. Just to give you a short introduction, like how we start. I first of all want to introduce our main speaker.
Marco, you're muted.
Adnan Odeh. He's a former government advisor, expert in governance, community worker, project manager at the NGO, the Social Charitable Center Society, and co-founder of the Center of the Palestinian Narrative. As our second speaker is his son, Hamza Odeh. He's a high school teacher and activist. We will start, first of all, by Irina introducing herself, and then we will hand over to Hamza, who will give us a short presentation on the facts on the ground in the Westbank and Jenin or Nablus and so on. And then we like to hand over to Adnan to learn and hear from you about your charity society center. And we will also continue with some questions, if this is fine for you. So Irina, first of all.
I'll be very short. So thank you for taking the time today to give us a short introduction of what the situation in Nablus and in the West Bank is like today. On myself, Marco asked me to help him out with the moderation and to do it together. I'm also an activist of the Palestinian Solidarity in Austria and was also the main candidate of Liste Gaza, which was a solidarity election campaign run in Austria. Marco was also one of the candidates there, trying to place, to get more visibility for the issue of the occupation of Palestine and for the humanitarian catastrophe going on, which was at that time, of course, very strongly focused on Gaza, but as we see is also getting or evolving in the Westjordanland, and I think it is very important. And thank you so much for taking the time again to really get the whole picture of what the life of Palestinians and the situation in Palestine is like.
Yes. So thank you. Okay, maybe Hamza, let's start with your short introduction of the situation and your presentation.
Yeah. So as we know, the West Bank has been facing genocide, a slower genocide than the 7th of October. Since the Oslo Accords, there was the peace process that was supposed to end up with establishing the Palestinian state. And since then, we've only seen that the peace process is only bringing more of a slower genocide that is causing loss of land and loss of opportunities for the Palestinian people, whether in political, social, educational, or even health sectors. The introduction will start with what happened today in Palestine, some facts and figures. We will see a few pictures, infographics about the situation in Palestine, situation in Jenin, and the past 16 months since the 7th of October until now. So here I have I want to share a screen with you, a few pictures and presentations. So can you see the infographics in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start with the picture. So the picture says a bloody day in Palestine in 24 hours, 5 martyrs in Palestine, 4 by the hands of the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli army, 1 by the PA, the Palestinian Authority. So as we can see, there are 2 kinds of occupation in Palestine that the Palestinian people are facing now. As we all know, there was like an operation and military operation that happened on Jenin before this one. It was by the Palestinian Authority. So, like, the Palestinian Authority couldn't achieve the goals of that operation, so the Israeli army had to interfere, and that was 50 days ago. In 50 days, the Israeli army had and this is an infograph about the military operation that the Israeli army had started on Jenin. We can see that 50 days of annihilation. By the way, this is the entrance of the refugee camp. The picture you can see here, this is the entrance of the refugee camp in Jenin. Over 30 Palestinians were killed, dozens were wounded, 50 facilities destroyed, homes, schools, health centers, and businesses. 300 Palestinians detained. This is only from 50 days. 90% of residents displaced. That's roughly 20,000 Palestinians only in Jenin. So another 20,000 Palestinians in Far'a refugee camp. This is almost 30 minutes away from 40 minutes away from Jenin refugee camp. So 40,000 Palestinians were displaced in the West Bank. This is only from the beginning of this year. I have a death toll that I want to show. Also, as we can see, this is in Arabic. This is from the press office of Palestinian prisoner. And it says that there are 762 Palestinians were detained only in February. This is the death toll that speaks about the number of Palestinians killed in the West Bank during the months January and February, March, and the areas. So in January, in Jenin, 15 deaths estimated. 3 of them were minors, 12 of them were adults. In Tulkarem, also we have 8 estimated deaths. 2 of them were minors, 6. And as you can see, it goes on. And there is the incident type, like whether it was raids, settler violence, as we all know that settlements and settler violence is going up and is happening more frequently these days because of the fascist government that the Israeli government has now, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir and Smotrich are both settlers, so they are empowering and arming Israeli settlers. The total deaths of Palestinians in January, February, and March until now, until today, are 98, almost 100. It can go up. This is estimated number. Can go up, it can go down because of many wounded Palestinians, almost 300. Also, this is the violence against childhood. As you can see, this is a few names of Palestinian minors: 17, Mahmoud, Muhammad, 13, Lu'ay is 16, Karam is 17, Amr is 10. I can also remember these children were killed. This is not the total number, but as you can see, this chart illustrates the distance from which Israeli forces targeted 76 Palestinian children, like 300 meters, 125 meters. I think you can see that, or you could recognize a child from that distance. And that was only from the 7th of October until July 2014. This is less than a year, only in 10 months. This is from the website of Visualizing Palestine. Also, we can see that 90% were struck in the head. 25 children were killed. 62 children were killed, and that they received the bullets in the chest area, multiple areas and limbs. We have example Ruqayya. Ruqayya was 4 years old, shot in the torso while riding in the back seat of a taxi with her mom. That's in the West Bank, mostly in Jenin. This is from the 7th of October. Also, the education as a teacher and as an educator, as a high school teacher, the education in Palestine and the education ministry in Palestine has been facing many struggles, suffering from many destruction of facilities, stopped schools, especially in Jenin and Tulkarem, because the ongoing siege on Jenin and Tulkarem have been going on for almost 30 days now. 3 months, 90 days, which blocked and sieged and detained students from, denied students from entering and reaching their schools. There was incidents where school teachers and school students, children, died while they were trying to reach their schools. Also, as we all know, the UNRWA schools have been cut off from support since the Trump administration decided to cut off the aid to UNRWA, since UNRWA is a terrorist organization according to Trump. There is another infographic that speaks about the facts and reality of education in Palestine, whether in the east of Jerusalem and the 1948 occupied lands, in Gaza, in the West Bank, and the refugee camps of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Finally, we reach to an infographic that calculates the last number of martyrs in the 16 months from October 7th until the 10th of February. This is the Israeli violence in the West Bank. It's important to remember that the West Bank is supposed to be under a peace process since 20 years. In this peace process, Palestinians have lost more land than they have lost it from the 1948 until 1994. So more land has been lost in the last 30 years than it was before the peace process. Whether if we look at both approaches, the approach of Gaza or the approach of the West Bank, fighting and resisting, or the peace process, we can realize that the Israelis and the colonizers, the occupation in Palestine, is only looking for genocide and doesn't want Palestinian in this land. It's ethnic cleansing, as many of other historical ethnic cleansing that the American and the Anglo-Saxon ideology have tried to implement on land, whether in the US, whether in Australia, or many other places. As we can see, there are 876 Palestinians killed by the Israeli army, 40,000 Palestinians displaced, as I said, 20,000 from the Jenin refugee camp, and almost 20,000 from Al-Far'a refugee camp. Settlers attacks has raised to 1,982, and 1,130 Palestinian homes were destroyed. Zero accountability and zero representation on the UN, as the BA is supposed to represent the Palestinians on the UN and is working on holding the Israelis accountable on the international court. It didn't move a stone, as we say in Arabic, to hold the Israelis accountable. On the other hand, just yesterday, a freedom fighter in Jenin was killed by the BA. So as we can see, the role of the BA in the West Bank is not actually fighting the Israelis, but is more like of a puppet used to control the Palestinians. I want to just highlight an idea that the West Bank is we can watch a small video about that, about the areas A, B, and C, so you can all know what yeah, this is the video. By the way, this is the loss of land. I think you're all familiar with this picture. This is a very famous picture. It shows the loss of land from the 1947 until now. We can see that after the peace process, it was the most loss of land. So we lost in peace more than we have lost while fighting the Israelis. A small video that speaks about the areas A, B, and C. It just shows how the West Bank, that is supposed to be a Palestinian land controlled by the Palestinians, is actually controlled whether by security or either by civil surveillance by the Israelis. I'll leave you with the video.
Is there a sound with it?
The sound is probably inside your computer, just right? Or is it? Ich weiß nicht, ob das überhaupt geht.
Ja, geht.
Geht das normalerweise?
Kompliziert.
Yes. So as you can see, Area C, that is controlled by the Israelis, is the largest of the West Bank. But we can actually tell you from experience that all of the West Bank is controlled by the Israelis, because whenever an Israeli soldier decides to close a street in the middle of the city, Nablus, it can be closed and nobody can actually hold that soldier, a single soldier. A single decision by like the lowest rank of soldier can take that decision and actually implement it in reality. I want to show a report by The Guardian that talks about how settlements are actually not touristic attraction. It speaks about the reality in Palestine. Just a few slides. We can see here that since the ceasefire in Gaza, Israeli forces have launched a major operation in the West Bank. 44 Palestinians, including 7 children and pregnant women, have been killed. This is an underestimation, to be honest. The second slide, we will see it. The Israeli has occupied the West Bank, as we all know. Controlling trade, travel lives. The 2.5 million Palestinians who live there are controlled by the Israelis. Palestinians in the West Bank live under small, I call it islands, to be honest, because as you can see, this is in red, this is the area controlled by the Israelis. In blue, this is where the most Palestinian population is located. So it's like islands. If you want to move between a city and the other, you have to actually go through a sea of settlers and a sea of Israeli soldiers. So what's left of the West Bank is less than 20%. This is a best estimation. I personally estimated with 9.2% of the land. Because even in areas that the Palestinians are located, you cannot build in many of these areas. In addition to Israeli security control, there are Israeli settlements spread throughout the territory. We will take an example. Of course, settlements are like illegal by the UN, and that gives the Palestinians the right to defend themselves. Since it's illegal by the UN, it is legal by the UN to actually have the right to self-determination and defend yourself against occupation. So calling what the resistance like groups in Nablus, Jenin, or Bethlehem, Hebron, Ramallah, and Jerusalem as describing them as extremist Islamist group is not actually correct, because this is the Palestinian right to defend themselves. We will take an example in southern of Bethlehem, one of these settlements, Tikya, neighboring to the Palestinian town of Tuko. I want to show you a video. By the way, this is just a number how this settlement actually swallowed the land of Palestinian people. Most of this land is field, agricultural land that like natives there depend on these lands to get their annually income from. Of course, settlers take it under the protection of the Israeli occupational forces. The Guardian prefer to call it Israeli Defense Forces. I personally prefer to call it Israeli occupation forces. We have a video here of how the Israeli army is actually detaining one of the locals who's trying to defend his land against settlers. I think you're all familiar with Msafir Yatta. Just today, Msafir Yatta has been attacked, and many vehicles and many people were forced to flee their land in Msafir Yatta just today. Yeah. We can see this is an Israeli settlement on Palestinian land. Airbnbs, of course, like we're like advocating for you to boycott Airbnb because it supports the Israeli occupation, illegal occupation of the West Bank. This is just like a romantic view of some of these Airbnbs on stolen land. We cannot put the pictures because the pictures has copyrights, but yeah, you can see that. By the way, a Palestinian uses 10 times less than an Israeli settler uses the amount of water. So an Israeli settler on the West Bank uses 10 times more Palestinian than a Palestinian does of water. So the occupation doesn't actually stop at the level of killing Palestinians, but it uses a quiet way of genocide to make the living in Palestine not possible, to encourage people to actually leave the land, because it's like they make their settlements look like paradise, but Palestinian places make them feel like hell. And there is a similar story here, and many other more similar stories across the West Bank. You can check out the link. This is an interactive presentation on The Guardian. There's a few other links that speaks about the situation. This is the occupation obstruction, development of Palestinian healthcare. This is how the hospitals are being attacked, like purposely by the Israelis. This is visualizing Palestine. Some of the pictures that I've showed you are from this website. Again, the loss of land during the peace process. And thank you. That was it. If you have any questions, you can ask me.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving this very deep insights. I think before we come to the specific questions, maybe we would like to give Adnan the possibility to also introduce the organization which you represent, because maybe this is also a little bit of an answer to some of the the problems that you addressed. For example, you said that there are destructions of the facilities such as schools going on, also in the Westbank, that the facilities of Palestinians are attacked. And we have seen that your organization, Adnan, is offering a lot of different measures and self-help organization structures. Maybe you can give a short introduction of yourself and your organization for a start, so that we can have also a little bit of a view of how also you and other Palestinians, how you resist to these aggressions on different sides.
Thank you very much, and for your solidarity and your support to the Palestinians. And actually, here in the West Bank, we are facing, maybe since the Second Intifada, an actual problem. And we are facing an Israeli systemic and strategy to destroy the Palestinian society, and not only by annexation of the land, but also by forcing the Palestinians to leave their cities, villages, and their farms. Actually, this is not a new strategy. Since 1967, the Israeli occupation authority, they were planning to force the Palestinians to leave their country by peaceful, what they call it, a peaceful manner or strategy or plan. It was adopted by the Israeli Labour Party, and then when the Israeli right wings took the power in mid of 1970s, they start to implement by force and by the bad and measures to implement this strategy. Actually, the Israelis, after 7th of October 2023, they have changed that free to be an opportunity for them. They understood that this is an opportunity for them to implement what they were planned before, since 1967, because they believe that the West Bank should be part of Israel. But their problem was the Palestinian people, about 3 million Palestinians lived in the West Bank, and this is a big problem. And the Israeli slogan was always less people and more land. They want annexation land, but without people. So the situation now in the West Bank looks like before 1948, when the settlers and the Israeli militia gangs try to force the Palestinian people to leave their homelands before in Palestine 1948, with a full support of the British colonial power or the British forces. Now, Israel, after the 7th of October, was given a full support from the colonial power and in the Western countries, by the Western countries and by the United States. And they said this is an opportunity for them to by this full support of the Western colonial powers, to implement their strategy to annexation of the West Bank and took over the Palestinian land of the West Bank to be a part of Israel. That's why they start to claim that the West Bank is not a West Bank in the international law, according to the new American administration. This is Yehuda and Samira, which is, it is the math of the Israeli propaganda. Actually, our organization, which is working in the old city of Nablus, we are trying on all means to help the people and to support the people who are suffering from unemployment and miseducation, and to support them in the real life, and supporting them by providing with them with a very basic food and elements of life to stay in the old city and the neighborhoods, which is besides this old city, which is according to the Palestinian rate of poverty, it is one of the most poor zone in the West Bank. In addition to our supporting to relieve the people of the poor and less opportunate area and zone in the west, in the old city of Nablus, we created or established the Palestinian Center for Palestinian Narrative. Actually, by this center, we are collecting, we are working very hard to promote or to give the Palestinian people, young people, and all young people in the world about our story, our narrative, according to the Palestinian narrative themselves, not according to the colonial and the Israeli Zionist propaganda and narrative. Because since more than 100 years, the Israelis and the colonial Western colonial powers, they want to force or to give an image that Palestine was a part of the Jewish history and not from a part of the Palestinian history or the Arab Palestinian history. And unfortunately, with the full support of the Western powers, they convince and they the old young people and the propaganda and the news and the media, they accept that the Israeli propaganda and the Israeli myth or the Israeli narrative is the real one, despite that the history and the historian, the Israeli history people and academics, they said that Palestine was never a part of the Israeli or of the Jewish history, because we tried to introduce this narrative that during the religion of the Jewish religion, that who adopted this religion, they were Palestinians or Canaanim, they were an Arabs, as simple as any new religion. When a prophet or somebody from an ideology try to spread this ideology or this religion, there were more and more people accept this ideology or religion, whatever their origin or their ethnic group. For instance, the Christian people, the Christian start from Palestine, but they were adopted by the European people and the American people. But the Christian people in Palestine, they were an Arab, and there were some of them as a Jewish, but the Jewish people, they are not a nationalist. This is another national group. they were a part of the region of the Palestinian history. Actually, this center tried to ensure that Palestine was full inhabited with people before 1948 and during the last centuries by an evidence and by a number and rates and tables. And we try nowadays to give all this information for the people via our center. I hope that in the near future, we will have a full documentary movie about, or film about Palestine since 20,000 years BCE till now. And this film will talk about the Palestinian people since that time till now, and they were living in Palestine as continuous, and they were a farmer, and they were live more than any else people. And we approved in this film that the Palestinians, they were the first people who was plantation and farmers and create the farming in Jerusalem and in Haifa, which was called Natufian and Caparian civilization. And it was unknown for many people that there were a two great civilization that was before 20,000 years BCE. And through these films, we will approve that the Palestinians, they were here, and we have a documentation and documentary, small film that when Napoleon, the emperor of France, came to Palestine in 1799, he sent his scholars to Jerusalem and to Palestine to account how many Jews in Palestine. And they said in their documentation in the Navy Ministry, and this is a document paper, they said that we find only 1,189 Jewish people in Jerusalem. This is in the 18th century. That means the Jewish, they were a minor people, a minority in Palestine, and the major people were Palestinians and Arabs. Of course, Muslims and Christian people. Our center and our society, we try in this hard situation, we try to support people to stay in their home. And this is not the first time, this is not the first challenge for the Palestinians. And I believe that our people will overcome all these challenges in the near future, and there will never be a new refugee despite the Israelis' policies to abolish or to cancel the UNRWA or to reshaping the camps of the Westbank. And they have a strategy to change or to reshape the refugee camps in the West Bank because they were a symbolic means of the Palestinian issue or Palestinian question. I believe that we will face in the near future very challenges to cancel our Palestinian identity, okay, Palestinian life, and destroy all our society in order to force our people to leave their home, because the Israeli strategy in the next stage or phase to annexation of the whole part of the West Bank maybe will leave for us some places or zones in the main cities and main villages, but will be surrounding with settlers and settlements. And these settlers, they will be very tough against the Palestinians. They will attack and invade our homes and our groups, maybe as the Israelis doing every night, invading and raids against the Palestinians society. They will do the same to change our life to be as cannot be lived in Palestine. Our society, our NGOs, our main task now to force or to help our people to try to naturalize with this situation. And I think we will succeed, and with the full support of our people in the West Bank, and with a full support of the people outside of Palestine, like you and other societies in Europe and United States.
Thank you so much, Adnan.
Marco, I would like to show the website of
Yes,
the...
I was just saying, I will actually do that and
Okay, perfect.
show the web page.
There's the Facebook page and there's the... yes, exactly. Perfect. By the way, if you type cobn.ps, you will reach to the narrative center.
The what?
The narrative.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing a great job. Perfect.
No, I was just wondering, like, to show everyone in the audience, and also we will post the link also in the description of the video as well, that people can see what your organization is doing. Kindergarten, the community kitchen, the culture center. Is this also including the soap factory which you reactivated?
Yes.
Is this the place?
Yes.
And
also we have a business pioneers incubator, which is one of our projects, which we created recently, and we are trying to training the new graduates, the university graduates, to enter the market.
Because last time I was visiting you in Nablus, I think you were telling me probably what is now the food production unit. Back then, I think it was like 7 years ago or something. I was there.
Yes, we have a food small industry producing food vegetables to provide our charitable kitchen.
Also during the winter, right? Because you told me back then that you want to freeze the vegetables and use it for the winter. Correct? So now this is all active already. Now I have some pictures here from the Facebook page. I think this is better to show.
Yeah, this is a free kitchen.
Yes.
Which is distributing in Ramadan, during Ramadan, more than 1,200 meals every day.
The whole Ramadan.
Whole Ramadan. Every day in whole Ramadan, we are distributing this amount or this meals for the people. And after Ramadan, actually, we are working in all the year. Every day, we are distributing an average of more than 600 meals every day.
And a part of Ramadan, how is the kitchen used?
Actually, we are working every day except Friday. In Friday, we gave the people in Wednesday and Thursday a meal to produce it and cooking in their home and we are working every day and distribute more than 1,200 meals every day for poor and old families or people.
And we wanted to ask, actually, did the need of the people change the last years? Did they need
Yes, of
different
course.
approaches?
The rate of unemployment, because of the close the border between brackets, of course, border between Westbank and Israel, and they forced our employees who worked in Israel to leave their works, and this is left up more than 70,000 people without work. And actually, not this is the only problem which may develop or make the unemployment high rate. Also, because the employment or the in the Palestinian Authority, they have only 70% of their salaries. That means many of the workers in the Palestinian Authority were suffering from the short of salaries, and they are facing a big problem to live in Palestine. So many of our benefited people in the free kitchen, now they were ex workers in Palestine 1948, and some of them they are Palestinian Authority employees.
Maybe, Hamza, you said in the beginning, and this is, I think, the last question before we also ask the audience if they have some questions that they want to ask you. You have said about the role of the Palestinian authorities that you see them as a puppy who is used to control the Palestinian people more than representing them. Could you be more specific on the situation, how you see the political role of the Palestinian authorities today, and how they also deal with the ongoing violences of the Israeli army, and how you deal with them if you see...
They don't deal with the violence caused by the Israeli army. Actually, they're causing even more violence to the Palestinian people as much as the Israeli army is causing. See, the last elections that happened in Palestine, whether it was parliament or presidential elections, happened in 2006, 2005. Back then I was 7 years old, now I'm 27, that was 20 years ago. So basically the Palestinian people, the Palestinian youth, I am personally a BA employee. So if you're asking, sometimes in school, they ask us to teach about democratic process and how democracy should be implemented in schools or in governance situations. So I always tell my supervisors that when the Palestinian authorities start applying a democratic process, we should then start teaching it, because right now there is no actual representation of the Palestinian people. The only representation that I see for the Palestinian people is the case in Gaza, because there you can see Palestinians actually defending themselves and representing themselves and fighting back against genocide, instead of a puppet authority that is contributing to the genocide. Just like this week, a number of Palestinians were killed by the BA security forces in Palestine. When you speak about the activism in universities, there was a student that was in jail for 87 days in the biggest university in Palestine by the Palestinian Authority. Only speaking about that on social media is actually dangerous for Palestinians. So trying to evaluate the role of the Palestinian Authority, I would say their role is to be a small servant of the devil. They're trying to actually implement some enhancement. There are some personal figures in the Palestinian Authority that still have some honor in them. So they're trying to use their positions to actually do something. But the whole structure of the the system is corrupt, doesn't support democracy, free speech, or any other kind of why we actually started the peace process to achieve a state. So if you're trying to achieve a state, but your state is actually losing more than 80% of its land to your occupiers, and you end up as a fascist state, you did actually a terrible job. One more important thing that I was trying to Google just like before the meeting, an infograph for Al Jazeera, because I know that Al Jazeera provides one of the most important and informative infographics that I can find online. But it was funny that the website of Al Jazeera is actually blocked in Palestine. So Al Jazeera, who's actually covered the whole genocide, whether in Jenin, Nablus, or in Gaza, their website is actually blocked. Many of the journalists have been jailed. Many fellow activists have been detained. Posting on social media is somehow dangerous because it gets you into trouble. Whether you're trying to correct or you are trying to hold accountability. I hope this answers your question about the role of the BA.
So to ask how you guess is the support of the PA in the society in the West Bank? Do people support the PA, or I mean publicly? I don't know, but
there's always a fifth line and like liberating societies. If you understand what I'm saying, you know, fifth line. Like people who actually support the regime because they are actually getting benefits from the regime. Yeah. But in cases of actual confrontation between two parties, and one party is so powerful and the other party is not, you would see that the least powerful party would actually try to avoid confrontation, especially to hold civil peace, especially that Palestine is under occupation. So you don't want to actually erupt like a civil clash between two different ideologies. But to answer your question, we would have to see an election, a democratic election in Palestine. And I don't think any of the BA representatives would make it to any of...
It's not planned, right? There is no election planned.
Well, actually, if you are going to last polls or surveys conducted by NGOs in Ramallah or in the West Bank, you will find that the BA have a minor support. The people in the West Bank, actually in the West Bank, many people, and they are increasing, who are supporting Hamas more than Fatah and the PA. This is the last polls and surveys said. And you know that 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when Abu Mazen canceled the elections. Why he was canceled the election? Because the people advised him that Fatah and his organization will lose the any general elections conduct in the West Bank and Gaza. And I think there were very minor people, they are very small people affiliated to the BNA or PA.
Do we have some questions in the audience, maybe for Adnan or for Hamza?
Yeah, I have a question. One moment.
Das geht auch mit dem.
Ja, ohne Mikrofon. Können Sie leider nicht hören. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. I just have a simple question for Adnan. This is about how do you finance your organization? How do you get over your costs in supporting the people who are unemployed and so on? Thank you.
I don't hear the question well.
The question was how you finance the organization, how you get funding for it.
Actually, from the local community, the Palestinian local community full support our society, and they were very generous people. They are very good people, and in this hard time we are facing in Palestine and in Nablus, we find many new people who are supporting our society and our organization, and we are very proud that we are fully support from our local community.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, maybe I just want to add or to show. Because the whole idea I was wondering to make this Zoom call with you was because in the West it's portrayed West Bank and all these raids by the Israeli army is portrayed as, yeah, there is some Islamists fighting in Jenin and so on, and that's why the Israeli army, and even they say it like even the PA, their own government is fighting them, so that's like a legitimizing all this thing. And here this is this image, I think it's from Jenin.
Yeah.
You will not find these images. It's, even when you Google Jenin IDF, you will not find very good pictures, but they're destroying the streets. Nobody in the West will see that, but I'm asking you, what is the strategy behind that and to destroy the streets? To go in and just destroy the streets, and besides making 20,000 people in Jenin homeless at the moment?
Actually, this is an Israeli strategy and policy. Since 1967 till now, they are followed this kind of destruction and destroying houses and streets and everything in the Palestinian life. And they are implementing boycott and sanctions against the Palestinians. This is a strategy to make a Palestinian life more and more hard, in order to force them to leave their cities or to immigrant outside of Palestine. Actually, this is not a new, and they not because the Palestinians, Islamists, freedom fighters work in Jenin and Tul Karim or in Nablus. Even before the creating or establishment of Hamas, in 1980s, there were a secular organization of factions, national and secular groups and factions, Palestinian faction and groups. They were against Israel to liberate our territory or to liberate our people. But the Israeli, even when they were a secular or nationalist movement, they treat the people the same way. And we are very familiar to the what Ariel Sharon in 1970s, in the early of 1970s, he was implemented the same thing in Gaza. He destroyed many Palestinian refugee camps and to enlarge the streets and to let the Israeli patrols and tanks to enter anytime these Palestinian refugee camps. And now they are try to make the Palestinian life more and more very hard and to force the Palestinian living in the camps to leave these camps because this is an Israeli policy now, which is supported by the United States and by actually the United States mainly. They are have an opportunity by full United States support to cancel the Palestinian refugees. The Palestinian refugees camps now, it is targeted by the Israeli occupation army. And I think there is in the next months or next months, yes, they will try to destroy as much as they can of the Palestinian refugee camps.
Is there anything that you, on your side, would like to add in the end? Or is there someone maybe online who has a last question before we have last words of our two speakers?
Yes, Hamza.
Ich weiß nicht, ist da noch wer? Keine Fragen, oder? Im Chat, oder? Wolfgang, das wissen nichts, oder? Okay.
So, Adnan, you said before that you have one last thing that you would like to share with us. Final words, what you would like us to take away and also to spread to the world from your experiences right now in the West Bank?
Actually, I would like to say always that don't stop your solidarity with the Palestinians. I know you are facing a very hard time in Europe because the fascist and nationalist and right wings parties raise and they are getting more and more power in the new elections in Europe, and that's why you are facing more and more problem in Europe. But this challenge may let more and more people to try to avoid this wave of hard time. But I need you to full support the Palestinians and to give the new image or real image of what is our people facing in the West Bank and Gaza. And I think the main issue is the Palestinian question is not start from 7th of October 2023. The Palestinian question and problem and our Nakba or disaster start actually in before 100 years. when the colonial power, British power, start to occupy Palestine and to change all the demographic and all whole Palestinian people and land to be a part of this new state called Israel, to for the benefit of the colonial powers in the West and for the benefit of the United States.
Thank you. Hamza, do you want to add on your final words or a summary of what you want us to?
I was also wondering if can we support your organization somehow? Is there any way to support from outside? Or also would you encourage people to visit you in Nablus?
I beg your pardon, what last statement?
I was wondering if you, first of all, if there's a need or possibility for us here in Europe to support your organization, and secondly, if you encourage people to visit you in Nablus and see your organization there.
Yeah, of course. We have many delegation came from Europe who were supporting Palestinians and came to Palestine and visited our organization. But I know that these days it is very difficult even for you to come and visit Westbank, because in the bridge or in the airport they will ask you many questions, and some of our colleagues in Austria, they were planned to visit us, but they forced to back in the Jordan-Palestine river or bridge after the Israeli secret services meet them. They forced them to pack. They not give them a permit to enter Palestine. Actually, yes, we appreciate your support in any means, but our full support that you keep working and your solidarity with the Palestinians and give the European people the real image of what is going on in Palestine, and to tell them that the Israeli occupation is the worst occupation in the world. And you can say that very frankly, that when the European people, they were resisting the colonial power or the occupation in France or during the Second World War, or when the many countries resist for the independence, the Palestinians, they are doing the same thing. You have double standard when you are supporting the Ukrainian people against the Russian army. Now you are against the Palestinians, despite they are fighting against the Israeli occupation.
Maybe Hamza, if you want to add your last words.
Yeah, great job for solidarity. Thank you. I hope you put more pressure on your government to actually show that the Palestinian voice and people who stand with what's right and what's just in the world aren't only being just and being fair doesn't know no religion, doesn't know no race, ethnicity, gender. People who support justice come from different backgrounds, different places, different areas. And I believe that one day you will be able to come to Palestine, a free one, inshallah. An important, just like on a side note, I think why the BA wouldn't win an election in Palestine is not because people support Hamas or people because support the Islamic approach now. It's not only that, it could be that, but it's not the only reason. It's actually because those who work for justice, whether they were Islamic, Christian, Jewish, or whatever, if you work for justice and if you work for your people and if you work for humanity, you will be supported by people. And if you are corrupt, if people are racist, if people are and if there is an ethno state, and if people are traitors to their homeland, to their values, and to humanity, they wouldn't actually win, even if they used all the power. I know that Israel has been occupying Palestine for almost 80 years now, but they wouldn't actually win like a fair win, because simply they follow a zigzag road, and a zigzag road wouldn't get you anywhere. Only fair, humane justice would actually, at the end of the game, would win. Peace, people, justice, and freedom. Thank you for your support and solidarity, and Ramadan Kareem.
Maybe I want to add something, maybe a very short statement. It is maybe an advice, if I can give an advice. Please, I think it is a very good idea to be all people who are supporting Palestinians in Europe and United States and Australia or in the West. Unified yourself, reunion yourself, try to work together, even without
Against differences.
whether despite your different backgrounds, but I think you can work together and have a channels, or you have an access to each other to work together, because your ultimate goal is to support the Palestinian people and to give the European people the real thing and real what is going in Palestine. And this is good if you are working together or asking for one conference and forming a higher commission or committee to work to let all these fractions or parties or people, as a personal or as an organization, to work for one stream to achieve the goal of solidarity to Palestinians. Maybe this is something for you. I know that you are very great people who are working in very hard place and society, and all our wishes to you to achieve your goals.
Thank you so much, Adnan and Hamza, for all your presentations. I just want to add on, I don't know if you have noticed, but we have had half a year ago, we had a Palestine Congress in Vienna after the one was cancelled in Berlin. I don't know if you saw it, but the police raided the hall and with 1,000 police officers and cancelled the whole event, including they didn't let in the politician from Greek, Yanis Varoufakis. They banned him from entering, and also they banned Ghassan Abu Sitta, this surgeon, to enter Germany, and to ban them to do anything, to speak even just in Germany. And currently we are helping to organize, there is a new approach of 31 Jews in Austria, which formed a new initiative, Jewish initiative against Zionism.
Yeah.
And
Good.
this is currently organizing a new Jewish Congress against Zionism. So and according to Ilan Pape, which we also try to invite to Vienna, this is the first kind of this, such a kind of a congress, of a pure anti-Zionist congress And this is, inshallah, taking place in June in Vienna. And yeah, just that you know what's going on or what's currently planned in Vienna.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Maybe just to add on this, because the idea for this Congress was actually the idea of a Palestinian woman, of a politician, who said, because when we had the Palestinian Congress in Vienna, the official representation of the Jewish organizations, they said that Jews couldn't feel safe at the moment in Vienna because there's the Congress going on. And because there was also some Jewish people participating, and this Palestinian woman, you might know her, Hanin Zouabi, she said, but why do you let them speak for you? And this was actually the initial stake for this new Congress to try to organize explicitly anti-Zionist voices, Jewish voices, which is, I think, in at least in Europe, important to let them being heard, because these are also people who are being silenced, just as the Palestinians, because everyone who is speaking out for the Palestinians is being silenced, and therefore also your initiative is really, as you said, the cultural center is really a very important step forward to just keep up the narratives of Palestinian people, make the Palestinian history visible and hearable. And I think this is my final words also. Keep up your great work and always let us know if there is some way of how we can support you. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Arin Babe is a good choice. He is a great scholar, Jewish scholar against Zionists. And he was a writer, author of many books, which is about the ethnic cleansing of people and the genocides committed before 1948. That was an Israeli and Zionist strategy for ethnic cleansing. And I think Alan Baby and Frank Stein, he is a Jewish scholar in the United States. This good, very good historian and very good people who can give good lectures about how much the Israeli committed genocides against the Palestinians.
Okay. Thank you, Adnan, Hamza. Thank you so much for all your time, and all the best, and talk to you soon, inshallah, and see you hopefully.
Inshallah. Have a great night. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.